What up? We're back. Back straight from UFC 244. Gosh, I just want to start by saying what a card, first and foremost. That was an amazing card from start to bottom. It was just such a cool night of fights, and what an experience it was. It was something we've never seen before, with The Rock being there and the whole night. It was a special night overall. So starting with the earlier night in the card, it was Johnny Walker, who we all were super high on. And as I mentioned in the last one of these, I had said that he was going to be a contender against Jones, him against Dominic Reyes. I was kind of putting him past Corey Anderson. I thought Corey Anderson was getting set up to get brutally finished, and that didn't happen. It was kind of the other way around, and it showed that we build a lot of guys up, and we really make them. We put a lot of pressure on these guys. It kind of happened with Francis. It's just we see it a lot. I feel like with guys, Sage Northcutt, he's one. It just happens, and it sucks because we want that next guy to beat John so bad, or just see a guy compete with John. That's really what we want to see. It's not necessarily we want to see him lose. I think we just want to see him have a threat in a competition, other than just that one Gus fight and now this last Thiago Santos fight. But there's just still a lot of growth that needs to happen, obviously, from Johnny Walker. Looking at this last fight, he seemed really anxious to be in there. But I still think he's going to be a threat in the future, no doubt. But I think Corey Anderson's really good, and I think he's improved a lot. I think a fight between him and Dominic Reyes makes a lot of sense now that John Jones is wanting to sit out for a bit. So I think that fight makes a lot of sense. I don't think Corey Anderson deserves... I don't think he doesn't deserve a title shot, but I just know with John wanting to sit out, I think doing that fight makes the most sense, because I want to see Dom fight before he gets a title shot. So we'll see what happens there, but that's what I think they should do there. But bummer for Johnny Walker, great for Corey Anderson. Corey Anderson's paid his dues. He's worked his ass off to get to where he is and had to fight a lot of tough guys to get where he is, and he's not gotten a lot of appreciation along the way, just because it's been a shallow division, so that's not really his fault. But that whole division, other than John, doesn't get a ton of attention. It's starting to, so I think now with a statement like that, we're all going to pay more attention to him, take him more seriously. I think it's great for the sport of, or great for the division of light heavyweight. So the next notable fight was Kevin Lee versus Gregor Gillespie. Kevin Lee coming back down to 155, coming up against a undefeated Gregor Gillespie. I didn't like that fight for Kevin Lee, and I'm a Kevin Lee fan. I thought it was a kind of a big risk, and it was one of those moments that, like, is Kevin Lee really a contender, or is he not? You know, is he just kind of a journeyman? And I think it proved that he's a contender. To be able to beat an undefeated guy anytime, I think, is good, especially a ranked guy. And Kevin Lee, I feel like, has had so many issues outside of the cage, you know, with his coach and trying to find a new team and a camp. I think that could be really hard for guys, especially when they're young and they're looking for more of that guidance than, say, a really seasoned guy does, like Arlovsky. He can jump around probably and go to different gyms over him, you know. Ton of guys can do those things. Whether it's best or not, I don't know, but I feel like way harder for you if you are a younger fighter trying to come up. You need that guidance because there's just still so much you don't know and experience you don't have. So I think Kevin Lee now is starting to kind of find himself and where he feels comfortable. And it showed in that fight. I mean, it was such a clean head kick. That knockout was unbelievable. And he looked good in the fight, so I'm excited to see what he does next in staying in the lightweight division. I know he tried the 175, and that didn't work out for him too great, but I don't know. For some guys, moving up's the call. For some guys, it's not. And I don't know. There's that argument all the time. Are you better if you move up? Well, moving on from that, you have Darren Till, who he did look better. He looked a lot better being at 185, and he's not depleting himself. So I feel like for some guys they can do it and other guys they can't. It just depends. I mean, now you have Jose Aldo moving down to 135. So he was a guy that talked about moving up to 155. So you never really know, I guess, until you see it. You know, TJ moving down to 125, that wasn't maybe the best decision, and he talked about how much of a grind that was and ended up testing hot for it. So, I mean, there's so many factors I feel like that go into it to where we can never really say if it's going to be the right call until we actually see him do it. So, but the next probably really notable fight would be the Darren Till Gastelum fight. As I was just saying, he was moving up and coming off of 2 losses. It's got to be a really, 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 really tough place to be in as a fighter, to come up on that and then to be moving up a weight. And then he got arrested. He had so many issues, Darren Till, going into that fight. And then Gastelum coming off of a great fight against Stylebender, who's now living the dream. So they were both kind of in that position to where we didn't know what we were going to get. Was it the best fight? I think it was a good fight. I liked it. And I think Darren Till is going to be a really promising contender for the middleweights. I'd like to see him against Stylebender. I don't know if that's the play right now. I don't think so, but it'd be good to see some other guys that are maybe bigger, maybe a Yoel, but I know Yoel and Stylebender are starting to talk shit to each other back and forth, so that fight might happen. I don't know who he fights, but I think if you give him someone in that top 5 other than Kelvin, maybe Whitaker would be good, but those are 2 guys that were also former 170-pounders that moved up to middleweight, and they've been having success with that. So I think that'd be cool to see them go at it against each other because of that. Just guys that were too big for their division move up and then have success. And I don't know if Whitaker's healthy or not, but that fight seems to make a lot of sense. And then Gastelum, I think there's a ton of guys. You can have him fight Jack Hermanson, who's coming off that loss, or maybe that'd be a rebound fight for one of the 2. I don't know. But I think the middleweight division and the light heavyweight division are both really exciting again, and that's good to see. Middleweight division's always been exciting, but for a minute I felt like it was going to be before Israel's really started to kind of come out, and when Whitaker kept getting hurt, there was just that era to where it was like we were kind of getting a not full version of Luke Rockhold. He was fighting Yoel for, that interim belt or whatever it was, and it was just that time where it was like, is the middleweight division kind of dead right now because the champ's hurt, for 2 years or however long, and it's just like we don't have anything right now. And then all of a sudden, just overnight, it just was like, holy shit, we've got guys for days. There's matchups everywhere. So I'm excited to see what happens to that division. The UFC needs that with the bigger divisions, big time, and heavyweights too. So last but not least, we have the main event. That main event was crazy. We're all really bummed, and we should be. We have the right to be bummed because there's such this buildup of the baddest motherfucker, and then it ends like that. I mean, it's like, fuck, really? But when I really think about it, it's not as bad, I feel like, as it's being drawn out to be. And especially, I just want to say this, I feel terrible for that doctor who called the fight. I read something that he was saying he was getting death threats and all this stuff. And I mean, it sucks to be in that position to call that fight, because it's at the end of the day, your judgment. I read somewhere that it was it's not the doctor's call, blah, 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 blah. A coach can throw in a towel and all that, but at the end of the day, the doctor's there to do their job, and if they genuinely think that that's the right thing, I don't think he's there to screw anybody or screw the fans, but I think it's just a part of the sport that it just happens, and cuts happen, and that's a problem with guys like Nate Diaz who have all that scar tissue where it opens up first round. But my only thing is this, maybe let it go a little longer, just because he has that exact same cut in every single one of his fights. And I've seen so many pictures with that exact cut. Even in the Conor fight, I mean, every single fight he's got that cut. So, We just are bummed. We're really bummed because also too, Nate Diaz was starting to kind of come into his own as the fight was going on. I felt in the beginning he was kind of getting picked apart a bit by Jorge. Jorge looked phenomenal. Not to take anything away from him with all of this, and that's really not his fault too. You know, I remember I was watching it and everyone was booing them because of the results, and that's kind of the problem with these guys booing is it's like, fuck, dude, come on, like it's not their fault. It's not really anyone's fault. It is what it is. It kind of just happens, and we hope that we get to see that fight again. But I think that there's still a lot of great fights to make for that. Just showed where the game is at right now and where the sport's at, to where you have Jorge looking like that and performing like that fight after fight after fight. And then Nate Diaz, who looked pretty good too. I mean, he started to come into his own, like I'm saying. So, I don't know. We got robbed of something spectacular. It sucks because it's that one time. It's that one time they're doing the belts. That one time The Rock's coming out and they're doing this whole thing with it. But I feel like that's MMA, and I'm actually just blessed that we got to see the fight because there was a quick minute a week ago that we weren't going to get to see the fight maybe because Nate with the USADA. So it was a fun fight for a while it lasted. Super fun fight. I don't know if they're going to do a rematch or not. I think I saw in the press conference Dana said he didn't want to do that. Maybe if they meet back up in the future, that'd be one thing. But I don't know. There's the argument because Jorge's had just such a phenomenal year, and he does deserve a higher fight and deserve to keep moving forward because of his performances, and he keeps winning. So he does deserve that. However, if he wants that fight with Nate and that rematch with Nate, and the fans want that rematch with Nate, I feel like we should get it. The same way they did it with Jeremy Stevens and Yair. I don't think it's the same in the sense that it happened, that the stoppage wasn't quick. It's not like Yair was beating the piss out of Jeremy Stevens, and then all of a sudden the eye poke happened and the fight gets called. It just was so quick. So I see where they make that right away and say, all right, you guys got to keep going again. And they have to make that fight to move the division along. But when Jorge looked as impressive as he did in the early rounds, it's tough to argue that he didn't win the fight, even though Nate was shining towards the end and he should have had the right to continue. For the result, for what it was, we can't deny that that Jorge won. So it's just, what do we do in this situation? Because he does get to move on. He should get to move on. But we all want to see that rematch. So I don't know what they're going to do with it. I hope we get the rematch. I hope we get it sooner rather than later, especially while Colby and Kamaru are tied up. Who else does he fight, you know? He should get a title shot next, but in the meantime, you know, let Nate's eye heal up in a couple weeks, a few months or so, not even. I mean, by the time that everything works itself out, I think you could have Jorge and Kamaru or Colby happen, depending on the result of that, and depending on if he beats Nate second time if they fight. But I don't know. The UFC is crazy. The way that they do things sometimes is a little bit suspect, but we'll see what happens. But yeah, overall, great night of fights. So yeah, let me know what you guys think. Let me know what you thought of the stoppage, whether you thought Nate should have kept going, whether it was fair, whether it was clean. The doctor was out of line, whatever you think, just let me know. All right, thanks, bye.